For centuries, the Muslim world maintained a continuous thread of political and spiritual unity. It survived wars and internal fractures, and then it collapsed. In 1924, the Ottoman Caliphate was formally abolished. For the first time in over a millennium, the global Muslim population, the Ummah, woke up without a unified political center. The maps were redrawn by foreign powers, carving a single contiguous region into fractured colonial states. The events of 1924 signaled a political defeat, but the deeper consequence was an existential sukut, a collapse throwing the Muslim world into an identity crisis. The old systems were gone, leaving a massive civilizational vacuum that demanded a response from a new generation. In 1928, a grassroots response emerged. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded to reject this colonial fragmentation. Instead of waiting for sultans or monarchs to fix the system, the burden of leadership was placed squarely on the shoulders of the common people. The movement's founder, Hasan al-Banna, looked at the fractured landscape and chose a specific strategic focus. He bypassed the older generation and centered the survival of the Ummah directly on the youth. He documented this in a 1936 text called Risalah Wahai Pemuda. Looking at this document, the core thesis is clear. The youth are the pillars for revival. It requires 4 conditions: iman, deep faith; ikhlas, sincerity; hamasa, emotional drive; and amal, concrete action. This 1936 text provided a new framework for the youth, moving them from passive victims of the 1924 vacuum into the active role of architects rebuilding the future. That blueprint was immediately put to a brutal test. In 1948, the State of Israel was created, resulting in the Nakbah, the mass displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes. The events of 1948 physically tore into the center of the Muslim world. It took the abstract theories of revival and forced a pivot toward urgent survival. The trauma weaponized the hamasa, the passion of the young generation, giving them an immediate, visceral cause. In 1979, the geopolitical map fractured again. 2 massive events happened simultaneously. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and a popular uprising overthrew the Shah in Iran. 1979 proved that Islamic revivalism could topple global superpowers, but it also introduced a dangerous duality. It planted seeds of deep sectarian division and proxy conflicts that tested the ikhlas, the sincerity of the Ummah, as political goals began to overshadow spiritual unity. The pressure escalated in 2001 with the start of the global war on terror. This was a systemic assault that attempted to redefine the tenets of Islam itself. Young Muslims found themselves operating under intense psychological and physical surveillance. A decade later, that pressure exploded into action. During the 2011 Arab Spring, millions of young people took to the streets across the Middle East. They successfully organized and brought down entrenched dictators, a massive display of amal, or direct action. But the hope of 2011 was short-lived. Brutal counter-revolutions followed. Protests were met with massacres, like the killings at Rabaa Square. A wave of disillusionment washed over the youth, as old regimes violently reasserted control. At this precipice of despair, Dr. Muhammad Badi, the General Guide of the Muslim Brotherhood, issued a new directive. He wrote a 2013 text also titled Risalah Wahai Pemuda, a message to the youth. In Badi's message, he issued an urgent warning. He told the young generation that they must maintain their moral clarity and stay hyper-aware of the fitna and the conspiracies plotted against them, specifically designed to break their spirit. The violent crackdowns of the 2010s didn't destroy the movement. The harsh realities were simply burning away the illusions. The youth's iman was being forged under extreme heat, preparing them for the most severe historical test yet. Which brings us to today, the Al-Aqsa flood, the ongoing destruction in Gaza, a rapidly expanding regional war that is threatening to pull the entire global order apart. This current escalation is the culmination of the entire 100-year cycle. It has stripped away the rhetoric and fully exposed the hypocrisy of the international system. The institutions that promised peace and human rights have stood by as atrocities compound. This raw, undeniable reality is having an unintended effect. It is burning away decades of internal fragmentation. We are witnessing an urgent global reawakening, driven entirely by Generation Z. Gen Z has inherited a century-long chain of consequences, becoming the kekuatan simpanan, the reserve force that Hasan al-Banna and Badi anticipated. These historical directives map directly onto the world you're living in right now. So you have to ask yourself, who am I, really? You must reclaim your identity before someone else defines it for you. Second, what is really going on? You have to develop a systemic historical awareness to see through the noise and the narratives. And finally, what am I here for, really? Breaking this 100-year cycle requires operationalizing the pillars of Iman, Ikhlas, Hamasa, and Amal.